The toast of the G7 which happened in Apulia, Italy last week. From Joe Biden to Justin Trudeau to host Giorgia Meloni, everyone wanted to take a selfie with Mr. Modi. The one between Modi and Meloni even broke the internet with memes and hashtags of Melody, which is a combination of Modi and Meloni.
Hello from the Melody team!
But Modi 3.0 is going to face some substantial foreign policy headwinds. There are choppy international waters from the two ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza, the great power rivalry between the United States and China, and potential flare-ups in the Taiwan Straits or across the South China Sea. Modi 3.0 will have to deftly deal with these stupendous challenges. So how will the world view Modi 3.0? Will the Prime Minister be celebrated just like he was in his first two terms as the strongman leader of the world's largest democracy? Or will his reduced mandate make his image a bit more chastened in the eyes of world leaders? The West did voice particular concerns about human rights and the trampling of institutions under the first two terms of Mr. Modi. Will his reduced mandate curb the majoritarian instincts of his party, the BJP? The first big foreign policy challenge for the Modi government is navigating the Russia-Ukraine war. Just last week, after the G7 concluded, there was a peace summit that was organized by and in Switzerland. Around 80 countries from around the world attended, including India. But when it came to the final declaration, which would call for a ceasefire as well as greater humanitarian assistance to Ukraine, India stood out like a sore thumb. India refused to sign the final declaration, insisting that any declaration which does not have the participation of Russia would be meaningless. In fact, India has taken a different position from its Western partners when it comes to Russia and this ongoing war in Ukraine. India refused to vote in any of the UN resolutions condemning Russia's actions. It has continued to buy Russian oil. In fact, Russia has replaced traditional Indian oil suppliers in the Middle East like Saudi Arabia and Iran as India's biggest supplier of oil. At one point in these last couple of years since this war began, a quarter of all of India's oil imports were coming from Russia, much to the chagrin of its Western partners like America. The other war has also been equally divisive, the one between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. After the October 7th attacks, India was one of the first countries to come out and unequivocally support Israel and condemn the Hamas terror attack in no uncertain terms. But as this war has progressed, most of Israel's supporters, including India, have come under immense pressure to rein in Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Modi even sent his national security advisor Ajit Doval to Tel Aviv with a proposal to halt the fighting during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. While Israel was initially open to the idea, it didn't come to pass. The fighting continued, and now more than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed in the last 8 months of this war. There is also big concern of great power competition between the United States and China. Just this past week, there have been tensions with the visit of a US congressional delegation in India meeting with the Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama. China took grave exception to the visit, asking the United States not to use India as a conduit to get back at Beijing. On the same day, the US State Department also approved another $360 million of weapons to Taiwan. The delegation was led by former US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who incidentally also led a delegation to Taiwan 2 years ago, which led to a flare-up between Washington and Beijing. India has its own ongoing border standoff with China. The military-to-military confrontation has lasted for the last 4 years now, since the Galwan clashes at the line of actual control, in which 20 Indian soldiers died and dozens of Chinese PLO soldiers were also killed. An undemarcated but non-militarized border has now effectively been militarized. India now has two active and hot borders, one with Pakistan, the other with China. Modi 3.0 will also have to deal with the Khalistan issue, which seems to have emerged as a thorn in its relationship with its Western partners, the US, UK, Canada, and now Australia. It started with the killing of a Khalistani terrorist, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, on Canadian soil. That was followed with the plot to kill another Khalistani separatist, Gurpantwant Singh Pannu, in the United States, who openly keeps issuing threats against India.
Observe a moment of silence in memory of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, assassinated in Surrey, British Columbia, 1 year ago today. I now invite honourable members to rise.
Just this week, the entire Canadian Parliament stood up for a minute's silence on the anniversary of Nijjar's killing, overlooking the grave acts of terrorism that he was accused of. India will have to do more in Mr. Modi's third term to convince its Western partners that the Khalistan issue threatens the very sovereignty of a friendly country, and that open encouragement to such acts of incitement by the West and in the West must be curtailed. Given this lay of the foreign policy land, as it were, how will the world perceive Modi 3.0? Will the fundamental interests of the West, which is to prop up India as a counterweight to China, override some of these niggling temporal issues? We'll find out.